Well, Anthony Albanese has come out swinging at Optus, declaring heads should roll after a network outage that left Australians unable to dial 000, with 4 deaths now linked to the blackout. The Prime Minister told the ABC that such a malfunction was completely unacceptable and added that Optus CEO Stephen Roux should be polishing up his resume.
Quite clearly, Optus's behaviour is completely unacceptable. We have made that very clear.
Should the Chief Executive consider his position?
Oh, look, I would have thought I'd be surprised if that wasn't occurring.
And fair enough, if 000 doesn't work for 14 hours and people die, well, the boss probably does need to go. That's not a glitch, that's a catastrophic failure. But here's the thing. If the Optus CEO is expected to fall on his sword after 4 deaths, shouldn't a few of our state health ministers do the same? How many Australians have died waiting for ambulances that never came because state governments, overwhelmingly Labor ones, have turned hospital ramping into a spectator sport? It's all very well for the Prime Minister to demand accountability when a phone network goes down for half a day, but when the health system goes down every single day, his state Labor mates keep their cushy offices, their chauffeured cars and their talking points about record investment. If Optus is guilty of negligence because people can't get through to 000 and die, then what word do we use for health ministers who preside over a system where people call 000, get through and still die waiting?
The state government is under fire after a Blackburn man bled to death while waiting 5 hours for an ambulance. He called for help and there were paramedics nearby, but they were tied up ramping at our overstretched hospitals.
The Victorian Health Minister blamed the problem on members of the public flooding 000 with frivolous calls. For instance, someone had called for an ambulance over an ingrown hair. Now, if you think that's ridiculous, it's not the craziest part. The craziest part is that an ambulance was dispatched. Here's the Victorian Health Minister explaining.
I'm not going to apologise for the fact that it errs on the side of caution.
Sack Stephen Roux, who's been Optus CEO for 10 months because people couldn't get through to 000, but let Mary-Anne Thomas keep her job for presiding over a health system where you can get through to 000 all right, only to die because she's got ambulances chasing every ingrown hair out of an abundance of caution. It's not the first time someone's died because the health minister, who has been there 3 years, hasn't fixed ambulance ramping issues. This was just a year ago.
A 69-year-old man has died while waiting 4 hours for an ambulance in Melbourne's east.
And it's the same in South Australia.
The disabled man who couldn't speak died in agonising pain. 3 emergency calls were made from his Hectorville care home over 10 hours on December 27. Eddie's auntie and uncle, Brenda and Steve, say when their nephew finally passed away, an ambulance was called again and arrived in 4 minutes.
Wake up, Mr Malinauskas. This is your fault, your problem, fix it, and the buck stops with you.
So in South Australia, you can call 000 3 times over 10 hours and be left to die unattended. But when your family calls 000 to say you're deceased, well, the ambulance is there within 4 minutes. Who's being held to account for that? The South Australian Premier hasn't gone anywhere, and his Health Minister, Chris Picton, hasn't gone anywhere either, a bit like their ambulances. Why isn't Anthony Albanese calling on them to consider their positions? Now, I know they're state members, but Optus is a private company and that hasn't stopped the PM weighing in. I'm not saying the Optus CEO shouldn't fall on his sword, but I am saying the double standard is incredible. When will Albanese call state health ministers to account? I was going to say I'll wait, but I'd have more chance of getting an ambulance, and that is telling.